for my staff probably 4 or 5 months ago, and we were talking specifically about using visual supports in the classroom. I use them throughout the day continuously from the time my kids get off the bus until they are back on the bus or in the car at the end of the day. They are so important. I came up with about 25 reasons why they are so important, and I thought I'd share a few of those with you today. Here, I'm also going to give you some examples. One of the main things that visual supports will help do is to give our students choices. These are called reinforcer menus. So when I'm working with a student, they're going to know what they're working for and they're going to be able to choose that. So I could put 2 different things on their reinforcer menu and it says I am working for, and then they will choose one of these things that they're working for. These are just 2 different examples. Visual supports are also wonderful for helping explain social situations. I am continuously creating, writing. There's always going to be a different social situation. When you think you've seen it all, something else is going to come up. These are just a couple of examples of some that we have created. This is Tantrums Don't Fix My Problem. It's just a brief social story to help a student understand and manage their behavior appropriately. I had another student this year who was very scared of fire drills, so we came up with some expected fire drill behavior, and during fire drills he would carry this on a clipboard with him, and took a couple of times, and then once he was able to manage himself appropriately, he was able to go through a fire drill without any problem using this social story because he was aware of the expectation. Let's see, move on to, it also helps to teach routines. These are just a couple that everybody uses. This is just a partial of the student's schedule for the day, but we'll just have everything. Actually his goes down to about 17, but I just pulled off a brief part of it so you could see, just helping them to establish their routine for the day. So they know what they're doing, they know what to expect, they know what's going to be next. Once they complete an activity, they'll take this off and put it into a little cup on their desk, and then they know what's next. This is just the schedule here, a task analysis of toileting routine that we have in the bathroom that will just teach them kind of a visual support to show them the steps as we're working with our students that are toileting. These will help teach new skills. One of the things that I've started doing this year a lot with my students is cooking projects, and they have been able to follow a recipe. So we'll just print out the recipe. We'll have all of the different steps from them with the visuals and the ingredients, and they have really enjoyed this and been able to follow. This is also teaching a new skill of a student that I have who was learning how to play with Play-Doh, roll it out, cut it out, a lot of different fine motor activities that they were working on. So we incorporated that into a visual support, so this is very handy and the student can use it to reference. It's also great for helping them stay on task. I'm sure everyone knows what this is by now. This is a token economy system. The student can earn stars as they're working. So what they would first do, you could use the reinforcer menu that we talked about initially. First we're going to do handwriting, then what do you want to do? If that student picked that they wanted to work on, play the iPad, great. Okay, first you're going to do handwriting, and then you can have iPad. Then you can move iPad to here if they need that visual. All right, you're going to need 5 stars, and once they've earned 5 stars, they'll be well aware that they can have the iPad. This really helps students know the expectation and for them to stay on task while working. Here we have another one that's going to help communicate rules to our students. This is a voice volume scale that I use in my classroom a lot with my students. There's also a PowerPoint that goes with this. My students have a hard time modulating their voice appropriately, and this really helps them put it into perspective of how high or low their volume should be, and if it's an emergency or if it's not an emergency. Just helps to communicate the rules. Also, this is just one example, lining up expectations that we've set up for the students. It just helps to give them that visual prompt so that they see it there. They're not just hearing me talk. Our students with autism specifically are very visual learners. These are excellent tools to help them to manage their behavior appropriately. Another thing that we do with our students is guide self-management. This is especially for my students that I'm servicing in the mainstream classroom. We have break cards that we'll give them if they need a break. We have a check-off list for calm down. We have calm down cards just to help them feel a little more in control, giving them some strategies so they can manage their behavior before it gets out of control, and so that they can recognize and advocate for themselves. So these visual supports are very beneficial. Another thing that especially our students with autism have a difficult time doing is communicating their emotions. We have a program that we've been using. It's a social thinking curriculum. One of the things that they talk about in this curriculum is how big is my problem. Because a lot of times, specifically with my students with autism, I've lost my pencil. And they have a complete and huge, big overreaction to losing the pencil. We want to put that in perspective. Is that a big problem or a little problem? Did somebody get hurt? We can find you a new pencil. And, you know, this visual support really helps them put it into perspective of how big that problem is. Also, we discuss feelings. If they have a hard time with language, did they have a language delay? Because we know that's also another issue with a lot of our students. Then they can point to the picture, tell me, you know, how they're feeling. And we can also discuss those feelings. What they look like, how you can be when you're in that particular situation. We can also discuss how we can change, what other behaviors and lost my train of thought. What other feelings that we could demonstrate other than our angry feeling. These are extremely important. One of the main things that you need to determine with each student is what that student needs, and then determine what visual support is going to be most appropriate them to help them in any situation throughout their entire day.